Today I'm talking to electronic artist Jinentronic. Electronic artist is with a very atmosphere, soundscape. He brings you into a different world, an abstract painter with a palette of colours. So how you been in the pandemic?
Oh, all right, actually. I've not been too bad. Just getting by like everyone else, wearing my mask and being a good boy, really. So yeah, fine. It's all been a bit weird. Because don't get me wrong, you know, everyone loves chilling out at home. I love, you know, spending time at home, putting my feet up and whatnot. But I don't know. I feel like my whole life is at home at the moment. You know, I work from home all day, and then, you know, as soon as I finish work, I've got the kids all day, all evening and whatnot. And then by the time they've gone to bed, it's like I've got an hour or two left. It's all at home. You know, obviously I can go out and do things, but I just feel like I'm at home all the time. And so I'm looking forward to everything to being over with, and I can start going out and I can properly do things again. I don't know, I might run a marathon or something. I'm not too sure.
Don't you go out for like a walk or something, get a bit of fresh air? Like, I know what you mean. It's hard, you know. Yeah. Go on. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think for me is because I've got 3 children, right? I've got a 13-year-old who she likes to sit in her bedroom and plays her computer games all day, which is fine. I say all day. Obviously, she goes to school, but when she's at home, she likes to play computer games. I've got my middle son who's 8, and he likes to play on his computer games as well. But then I've got my other son. He's 3. He's almost 4, and he's just like a big ball of energy all the time. So the only time, so in the morning, I'll get him up and I'll ship him all off to school, and then I'll get back and I've got like 2 hours to get some work done. And then I've got my middle son, my youngest son again, at home with me whilst I'm trying to get work done. So I'm trying to deal with him, trying to get my work done. But by the time my lunch break comes round, I'm so worn out from trying to juggle him and my work that I just like, I'm going out for a walk. I'm just going to sit here, play some computer games with him for a little bit. So, I don't know, it's just so weird. It's the whole pandemic thing. It's made life a bit weird. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe.
I agree. Yeah, it's sort of strange. You just you're out of sync. You don't know what you got to do. You sort of everything's changed, and now it's going to change again.
Yeah, it is weird. Because what is it? It's like in a few days' time. In fact, I think the day that this broadcast goes out, was it the 19th or something? Everything's supposed to open back up again. Everything's supposed to be back to normal again. That's what they're saying, isn't it? So
I don't think it'll ever go back to normal.
Yeah,
like if you look at the flu, there people will be saying, "Oh, he's got the flu." It'll be like in 5 years, "Oh, he's got the COVID," and it'll be settled down more. I think that's my opinion, but.
Yeah, I don't know. I really do not know. It's changed so many times. There's been so many plot twists, you know, as this whole thing's gone along. You don't know what's going to happen, do you? It's just, I don't know. Who knows?
It's a movie.
It's been one big laugh or something after all, you know. Comedy. I don't know.
Anyways, so the next question, I just want to ask you, what is your influences? Like, who did you grow up sort of liking, and how did you get into electronic music? Was it someone that sort? Yeah, them questions. Look.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I've listened to. I mean, I like everyone. Listened to so many different things. I've got so many different influences. I mean, growing up, like when I was in like senior school or high school, whatever you want to call it, I grew up with like the heavy metal guys. So I love listening to the heavy metal music. I grew up listening to it. So when I was in my teens, it was like the late 90s, and I was listening to things like Korn, the Deftones, Fear Factory, all that sort of stuff, and I absolutely loved it. But growing up in the 80s as well, and I was a little boy in the 80s, I've always loved 80s music as well. So synthesizers, I've always been a massive fan of like Duran Duran. They're like one of my favorites. I know they're not everyone's favorite, but me and my son, we sing along to Duran Duran in the car. Pet Shop Boys, absolutely love the Pet Shop Boys, that sort of stuff. So I don't know, it's a bit of a crazy mix. And then when I went to college, like I met so many different types of people. They were into like the sort of, I don't know what you call it, alternative electronic music. So there was like Aphex Twin, Square Pusher, Boards of Canada, all those sorts of bands. So now I'm listening to like weird, I don't know, crazy electronic artists that my heavy metal friends never used to listen to at all and thought were weird, but I still listen to the heavy metal music, and I've got all this synth pop stuff going on in my head, and I love everything. I love all these different types of music. And then,
do you find yourself searching for something different? Like for me, one of them I actually found on Bandcamp is a thing called Chinabot, and it's very abstract. If you listen closely, you can hear the sounds. It's electronic as well. Okay. And like you said, I had sort of that, classic rock and blues and metal and everything. And then suddenly you sort of try something else because is that something you've done when you said like you've been doing, listening to different things?
Well, yeah, I mean, some of the stuff I like listening to, I mean, has very sort of jazzy influences. I mean, depending on what you're listening to, I mean, so for example, there's a death metal band, like Swedish death metal band. They've changed a lot over the years, and they're called Opeth. And their songs, and I think this is probably why, like, as we probably cover, maybe, I know we talked about it briefly a minute ago, was that some of my songs are quite long, and when you listen to Opeth, they were my go-to metal band for quite some time, and their songs are like 10 minutes long, 20 minutes long, some of them are, and there's so many different styles in there. Some of the albums are quite jazzy. Some of them are very folk music-ish, so it's, and listening to Opeth, I started, listening to sort of a bit more folk. I couldn't tell you any of the names of the bands that I listened to, I just sort of, like, Alexa, play some folk music, that sort of stuff, and she'll just play some stuff. I'm really... Alexa, stop. Sorry, Alexa's kicking off now. She does it all the time. She does my head in. But, yeah, so, yeah, I mean, like listening to Opeth, I started listening to a little bit of folk music, and it's interesting, but it's not something I'll sit there and like listen to, but you divert a little bit. It's like, oh, I like the sound of that. I listen to a little bit of folk music or whatnot. But yeah,
I think that's a good thing though. The more like I've said to artists before, like if you hear an artist and they're exactly like someone, it's more likely they've just followed one. But when you follow loads, you take all that influence and it's just like a mix. Yeah. The greatest quote is Keith Richards, "Your brain is like a sponge." And that's what it is like with music, because you listen to so much growing up. And if you was in the 80s, because I was a bit of an 80s kid, but more 90s, I got the end of the 80s. I know Duran Duran, there's nothing wrong with it. They're great. I listen to them too, and that's amazing that you've had all that influence, because it all adds to the mix. You don't realise, and then at certain periods, if you're heavily listening to certain things, it comes out in the music.
Yeah, it's so weird. I mean, when I've always wanted to get into music. I've always been quite a creative person myself. Like when I was growing up, I was really into films, hence why, you know, some of my music might sound a little bit soundtracky. You know, I always wanted to be into films. I wanted to be an actor. I made a couple of little short films with my mates. You know, I made this film called The Severed Hand. It's on YouTube, and my friend saws my hand off. You know, I made a little animation. It's called Brain Food, starring Henry the Fly, and it's all on YouTube. If you want to watch it, it's all there. It's ridiculous, and it's what is the song? You know, come up and see me. Da, da, da. Cockney Rebel, come up. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, that one. That's that, and it goes really well. It's like it's about a little fly, and he's flying around this little man's head for some reason, and he goes into his ear and lands on his eye, you know, as you do, and then he nibbles through the guy's eye down into his brain and nibbles his brain, and the guy is getting, you know, more and more dramatically, you know, injured, you know, bloody and whatnot from his eyes and whatnot, and then the fly flies off, and it just fits so perfectly well to the music. But what I'm getting at with this, sorry, disclaimer by the way, I talk. Once I get talking, I just talk for England. I go on to so many different tangents. So if I am like well off the mark with what about cool. A minute ago, you got to tell me. So anyway, what I'm saying is I've always been quite creative. I mean, I suppose it must have been about 5 years ago. I was in a creative moment, and I was like, oh, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. So I started a gaming YouTube channel. So I really love them retro games and whatnot. So I started a retro gaming channel. I did that for a couple of years. And then when I was working, I used to go for a lot of walks on my lunch break because I worked in a quite nice area. It's a really good area to walk around. And I used to listen to, I can't remember what got me into it, but I started listening to a lot of synthwave music. I think something just popped up on my Spotify playlist. I was listening to a lot of synthwave music and loads of different electronic bands. You know, there was Empathy Test, and if you know Empathy Test, you know, they were popping on there, and I was listening to this for like weeks on end. I was like, oh, I really, really want to make some music like this, you know. And it just so happened that my manager at work, the guy I sat next to, he was massively into electronic music as well, and he had just bought himself a keyboard, a little MIDI keyboard. So, and he was telling me all about it, and I was like, I'm going to buy myself a MIDI keyboard and I'm going to make some music as well. So I bought myself a little MIDI keyboard and started just faffing around. I had no idea. I've had no musical training ever. I've literally had none. And
mate.
Oh no, it's just you just make up as you go along, don't you? You know.
Well, I'm self-taught. I didn't understand none of it. Like you were saying, getting a MIDI keyboard. I've got a piano. But that's the next step for me, MIDI, because like I'm getting more into electronic music. But you just sit down and just try something, and something comes out, and you think you just judge it. Is it good or not? I'll throw that away, do another one. You just have fun with it. Beauty of it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just that's the beauty of it. I mean, I think the thing that I love so much about my MIDI keyboard is that it can like mimic any. Well, I mean, it doesn't actually do anything. It just places notes down, you know, in your door. You know, that's all it does. It places notes down, little dots down, and then, you know, you can assign a, you know, instrument to it. So it could be a grand piano one day, or it could be, you know, a violin, you know, the next minute, you know, and it can do so many things. And I just absolutely love it. And I'm not, as I said to you before, I'm not the most professional person in the world. I do not have a rack of different synthesizers, mixing tools and whatnot. I just have Ableton and my MIDI keyboard, and I don't know. That's
all you need, stuff. Mate.
Yeah.
Don't ever think you can't do it. That's all you need. A lot of people do it like these days. I mean, for me, I've got a Mac. I got lucky. My mum bought it for me. But that's all I've got. I've got a wire you plug in, put your guitar in, and the keyboard, piano. I found this electric one. It was given to me by my friend. You plug it in, and then you got MIDI. Because I did say to you in a conversation, because there's some really good bass lines in this in your music.
Yeah.
And I said, are you a bass player? And you said, no.
No.
It's brilliant.
It is. I mean, some of it sounds really good. You know, obviously, I only release the good sounding stuff. I've got a whole folder. I mean, I do keep the stuff that I don't use, but I've got stuff I just listen to and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is just dreadful. That is dreadful. It's not for human consumption. But yeah, some of the stuff is just so good. I mean, I know the track that you're on about, the bass line in there. I can't remember. That's the thing. I can't remember what the sound was. I go into Ableton, search, go into the instruments, bass. I just type that, and then I find a sound, and then I'll just come up with a little bass line on my keyboard, and I'll tweak some settings and whatnot, you know, to make it sound a bit better, add some effects to it, and there you go. I say it's brilliant. It's not always brilliant, you know.
There's nothing wrong with that, mate. That's the way a lot of us do it these days. You just get like lost in that moment, didn't you? You're just playing, you're having fun. It's like a wonderland.
It is. It's so good. I absolutely love it, and I do absolutely love making music, and I don't ever want to stop. You know, I've had a bit of a break this year because I just, you know, life has just been in the way sometimes. You know, I just haven't really gotten around to it. But I've got a few things. In fact, preparing for this interview today, it sort of vibed me up a little bit. So I've been coming up with some stuff. So I might even have something specifically for your show in the coming weeks. You know, once I come up with something new, this next thing, I will send it to you as an exclusive, and you can have it. Brilliant.
You should just be creative. I know you say about life, and I know what you mean. Like when I go back to work, it's very hard when you've got life. I've got family members to deal with as well, and it stops you and it upsets me. But every now and then when you get back into that moment, one day you're just sitting there, you're in it. Well, it's wonderful. I could sit in there for hours and just get lost.
Oh no, I tell you what, sometimes it's so weird. You know, you'll be sitting there, and you know, I know evenings I've had where every key I've hit is the wrong key, you know, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is the worst night of music making ever. But then something happens. It's like something, you know, a light switch goes on, and then all of a sudden, you know, you're belting it out, and it's like, oh my gosh, where did this come from? You know, how did I come up with this? You know, where was this an hour ago? You know, and those moments just, you know, they just feel the best, you know, and the next thing you know, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, your alarm's going off in 2 hours, and it's like, oh my gosh, it was worth it though, it was worth it. But the thing is, once you've had a night like that, when you go to bed, you're laying there and you're thinking, oh, I need to remember this stuff in the morning, you know, oh, I wish I could get back on my keyboard, you know, it's just, it is the best feeling ever. It is the best feeling. And when you've come up with something and, you know, you're putting it together, you know, you're layering in some different sounds and whatnot, and then it starts to sound more and more like a proper tune, you know, it starts to sound more and more, you know, proper. And then I don't know, it's just such a good feeling. It's just, there's nothing like it, you know, and then when you're finally done, before all this pandemic malarkey was going on, you know, I used to drive to work every day. I don't need to do that now. But when I was working on a track, my drive to work was like 40 minutes. I'll just be listening to it, you know, on repeat in the car, you know, in the car every single day, on the way to work, on the way back. What can I do next? What can I do next? And that feeling is brilliant. You come up with so many good ideas, you know, and it's just you and that music. It's just, it's the best. It really is.
That's the place where you want to be. But anyway, exactly. I'm going to move on. You ready now?
Yes.
I'm going to talk about the first song I'm going to talk about is Watching You Love, But I Want to Love.
Yes.
And I wrote another airy feeling track, like floating sound, but like distortion with a driving beat. I love you followed by I hate you.
Yeah.
I want to love you. Is the sound of this track, is it a conflicting reality? Like you sit back and you let the sound just take you. Is it like a love-hate kind of like, or wanting to be loved, or?
Well, it's a bit weird. when I sit down to make some music, I rarely, I don't always have this, I rarely have an idea of what I'm going to do before I sit down. But I mean, I can have lots of different ideas, but then when I start pressing the buttons, it doesn't always come out like that. But for this one, I had an idea of sort of like a story, you know. It's a short story, obviously, because it's a blooming song, but it's the idea of it is sort of like a futuristic place, and there's this robot, and she's watching the humans. I'm guessing, you know, it's robots are, you know, a bit more normal, you know, in this world I created in my mind. But it's this one particular robot, and she's got a bit of self-awareness in a way, and she's watching the humans, and the weird thing about it is that she is feeling some kind of jealousy towards them, you know, and she sees them loving each other, and she wants to have that love. She sees the interaction, she sees them getting married, she sees all the stuff that they do, but she can't do that, you know, for whatever reason. It's her programming and whatnot. But the strange thing is about it is that, you know, she's jealous, and she expresses her feelings, saying, you know, I love you, I hate you, you know. So she has these feelings, but she can't love. I don't know. I just had this idea of a sad robot, really. I love sad robots. I don't know what it is about sad robots. I don't know. It's a bit depressing, really, but
no,
that was the idea. It's like a robot who wants to love but can't love, and is jealous. But yeah,
I think that's a brilliant idea, because you never know what is behind the music. Like, you talk to people and then you say, I think it's this, and then they tell you something else. Like, I think that's amazing, sort of like if you have that sort of story in your head and you're just playing, it's bringing something out.
Yeah, it's just, I think at the time I'd been listening to a fair bit of Aphex Twin and Square Pusher, and I'm not saying it was a copy or anything, but I think the more you listen to things, that the more what you've been listening to tends to come out a little bit more. And I've been listening to a fair bit of Aphex Twin's ambient works and whatnot, and I think that's probably spilled out a bit into it, you know, because some of those tracks are quite, you know, I don't know, they're ambient, obviously, you know, and that song is particularly ambient, but it's got that sort of glitchy beat going on in there as well. And I don't know, the whole thing's just got sort of like like a dreamy, like a futuristic, dreamy feel to it, I think. And I don't know.
I think that's where I'm getting that airy feeling. It's like a light feeling, like you're floating. Yeah, there's, you know, you do that with music. What you do, listen to, it's like I said, it does mingle, or if you're in a heavy sort of artist mood and you're listening to one, it does come out a bit.
It does.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to move on to the next one. You ready?
I'm ready.
Solitude. I said this is a night.
I was hoping you'd mention this one, actually. I was really hoping you'd mention this one because it follows on quite nicely from what I was saying. Sorry, was you about to say something there? I don't want you to jump in. I do this.
No, you go ahead. I was just going to say what I put, but that's totally fine. Go on. I'm listening.
Okay. So basically, what we were saying about, it's like the headspace that you're in. Solitude was, although I think I released it, I can't remember exactly when I released it. It might have been at the beginning of like the whole lockdown business. I can't remember exactly, but I'd actually made it a couple of months before lockdown started. I released it late. I was umming and ahhing about releasing it. I don't know. It was never meant to be sort of like a main track, but I don't know. A lot of people that I showed it to, I didn't show it to them, you know, I played it to them and they liked it. But anyway, basically, what it is I had recently gone through redundancy at work, and within work, thankfully, I managed to find a role within my company again. So, you know, that was all good. But I live in North Wales, and the team that I joined are based in Nottingham. So it's quite a distance, you know. So I had to leave my family. You know, I've got, as I say, I've got 3 kids, wife. So I had to leave them for several days a week, and I'd stay in a hotel in Nottingham to work with these good people for a few days a week, and then come back. But I brought my laptop with me, and I brought my little MIDI keyboard with me, and I'd sit in the hotel room and I would make music. And was one particularly lonely night in there. You know, I was just faffing around with some, you know, ambient sort of a lot of reverby pianos and whatnot, and I come up with this little tune, and I found this little snippet of that guy talking. I'll say his name, but I'll probably butcher it. I don't know how to pronounce it. Charles Bukowski or something. I think he's a poet. I think he's dead now, but he wrote a lot of stuff, you know, and he had a lot of views on things. And this was like a little voice snippet of him talking that is used in Solitude, and it just sounded very peaceful. You know, it was a very peaceful track. I was on my own, you know, it's just pure solitude, you know, just sat in my hotel room with my little keyboard. Solitude, that's what it was. And it's just quite, I think it's actually my shortest track as well. It's like 2 minutes long or something, 2 and a bit minutes long. I
think it is one of them. Actually, it had a nice thick bass and drum start. Dialogue at the beginning was fantastic. I love the line where he says, being always for the people, solitude is what an artist is feeling comfortable, where you feel comfortable. You get lost in the sound. It's a calm feeling, relaxing. It's like a ticking heartbeat. So it's just nice.
Yeah, it is. It's just, I mean, it was just like, you know, one person on their own. It is like a ticking heartbeat, really. I hadn't really thought of it like that, but I suppose it is. It's me on my own with my thoughts, and my heart's beating, I'm alive, you know, and that's what it is, really. It's just me on my own with my thoughts and my keyboard, you know. There's not much more to it, really. It's just a little bit of peace.
But when you get to that zone, or that place where you are on your own, a lot of people don't get that. Like, you sort of just fall into this world, and it's just you and that music, and you just start playing.
Yeah.
But I get what you mean. You was traveling, so you just had time to yourself. I know you're away from your family.
Yeah. That was quite a creative period for me, actually. I was faffing around all the time. I think because I just had so much time to myself. I was just doing loads of stuff, actually. I was always writing stuff. I was always doing something. And I think this is probably why, like, the pandemic, you know, the lockdown malarkey I haven't really done as much, because, you know, I've always had people around me. I love my family, you know, very much, and I love having them around. But I think because I just haven't had that personal time as much, you know, I haven't been as creative, you know, trying to turn that around. But yeah, during that time, I mean, I did so much stuff. There's another musician. I will plug people. Letters from Mouse, if you've heard of him before. LFM, Letters from Mouth. Mouse, not Mouth, talking about. He released an album called Proto-Human, and he did a song called The Autojector. And it was whilst I was away in Nottingham doing my work trip that he asked me to do a remix for him. So I did a remix of his track, The Autojector, which I'm really pleased with. I really like that track. I don't know if you've heard that one. You may have done, but that's a really, really good one. I really like that one. But yeah, I was just faffing around with loads of stuff. You know, it was just really nice, really, really creative. I sort of learnt my way around, you know, Ableton a lot. You know, I was just always on it. So,
but you'll get that creative spark back. So it sounds like because of this pandemic, you stopped a bit.
Yeah.
When we get back there, I can feel that it's like it's probably because you're at home. It's a different feel for you. I think you sound like when you're more like, for me, I'm more organised when I've got a job.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And I'm working every day, and you're going out and coming in. You get more into a system. Maybe being at home sort of it's a good thing being with family, but it's also knocked you out of sync a bit.
I think it has. I think it's the whole thing of getting yourself into, like, I wouldn't say a rut, because I wouldn't consider myself being in a rut, but you get used to doing certain things, like, I think because by the time the evening time rolls around now, because I don't get, but before when I was working outside of the lockdown, I'd be out of the house all day, so I'd have my work life, and then I'd have an hour or two of madness with the kids when I got home, and then I shipped them off to bed, and I'd feel creative from my freedom during the day at work, and I'd create some music. But I don't have that now. But yeah, things will change. I know they will. But yeah, I've just been playing computer games a lot, actually. Been playing loads of games.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, me and my daughter, we play a lot of games together. She sits in her bedroom on her Xbox. I'll sit here with my PC, and she's on a PlayStation, and we'll play games together. Dead by Daylight. We play a lot of Dead by Daylight together. So
tell Jay that. I know he's big into that. He plays a lot of games.
It's a good game. It is a good game.
Right, you ready for the next one?
Bring it.
Void gaze.
Void gazer.
Gazer. I keep missing the R out on it.
Oh, that's all right. No. Well, yeah. This was. I had been. I hadn't made any music for. I don't know, about a month or something. I just had, I was a bit busy. I just hadn't gotten around to doing anything. And it was one of those moments that I was saying about where I sat down and everything I did was just right. I found a sound that I liked straight away. I found these sort of synthy sounds. It had a sort of like a Blade Runner, sort of sound to it, I think. That's what I always describe it as. If people don't know, it's my Blade Runner-y track, and it had so I really love these sounds, and I don't have, I'm not a very good drummer. I'm not a drummer, there is literally no aspect of me which is a drummer. So what I do is in Ableton, there are various like MIDI drum patterns, and I'll take aspects of them, so I'm like, oh yeah, I like that little bit, and I'll take, that little snare pattern there, and I'll take that and I'll change it up a little bit, and then I'll take little bits from here and there, and then I'll add my own, like I'll add my own kicks to it, or I add, some hats to, I don't know, I sort of mix things up a little bit. I take a few things, rearrange it, and I add my own bits to it, and I don't know, it all came together quite nicely. So the idea of it is someone is it's basically like just looking out into space, and they've completely zoned out. This is just the idea I had. It was just like someone just looking out into space, and you see those, you've probably seen them on the internet, where it's comparing all the different sizes of all the different planets, and all of a sudden you'll see the sun, you think that sun is massive, and then you'll see something about a gajillion times the size of it, and you think, oh my gosh, I can't believe there's all these big massive things out there and we're so small. And it was someone, laying there just looking up at the stars and just losing themselves in the void. They are the void gazer. They are just imagining the immense madness that is out there in space, and it's just I don't know, it's just I love space. I think space is such a fascinating thing, and just to think about all the mad things that are out there that we don't know, the size of things that are just, I don't know, I can talk forever about space stuff. I just absolutely love it. And just
I've noticed that in your music you like you seem to like space and androids.
I do. I think it's brilliant.
I'll tell you what I'll put is the whispering voice as you take a look into the void with a heavy driving sound. It draws you in. Maybe a dystopian, destroyed world. Nothing left but the blackness and eerie of deep space. I love the kitchen tone at the end. it's like it's talking to you, and it fades back into voices and then away.
Yeah,
I thought it was brilliant. I actually did, like you said about Blade Runner. I thought when I heard that was the first track I heard from you, I thought that's a movie track.
Yeah, yeah, it has got that sound. I really like it. I mean, I would love to be able to score a movie. You know, I'm no Danny Elfman, you know, but I would love to score a movie. You know, that would be so cool. You know, that would be really cool, and it would have to be like a futuristic, spacey sort of film. You know, that would just be the best. So if there's any movie makers out there, and you need someone to make some kind of spacey soundtrack or anything, dystopian, futuristic soundtrack, give me a buzz. Jinentronic, Twitter, I'm on Spotify, give us a listen. Bandcamp, download it, Void Gazer, that's the track you want to listen to.
Do you ever think about that? Because that's something, like I said, I'm a songwriter and I've actually gone that way. I've started to say, hey, let me learn a bit more, understand a bit more. Like you just said, you're there, but you could do something dystopian. For me, I'd have to learn more. So I've gone into more classical and electronic. But you never know. You could have someone who's just like an independent film. Or the other thing I do, I'm going to tell you the trick now, is I go on archives and find space films. I've got one on my YouTube, and I learn some of them. But I think you should try it. Because you've got a talent. I can see it. I can hear it.
Thank you.
And I'm sitting there like, I'm trying to do that, and this guy's doing it. It's amazing. It is, because I'm definitely that Void Gazer. When I first started, I thought, straight away, I said to Jay, I text Jay, I said, this guy can make movie films, you know that, like the music. But you just got to plug away and...
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to be given the opportunity to do that. I mean, one thing that I've thought about doing is this is leading on to another thing, actually. It's a bit of a project that never got off the ground. But one thing I've always wanted to do is I love old school games. If you ever, if we ever like chat at length, after this at some point, you will know that I love computer games and I love old computer games. So one of my favourite old school computer games is Doom, original Doom.
Yeah, no.
And what I wanted to do was I wanted to, record like a Doom session, like I'll play through like the first episode of Doom or whatnot, and then just make ambient sort of music to go along with it, because I have a bit of experience with modifying the files of Doom and whatnot. I've, taken sound files out of it and whatnot. And I was thinking, well, if I could make my own music for it, then maybe I could convert it and then put them in the game files and then actually have this music that I've created playing throughout the levels of Doom as I'm playing it. And I think that would be really, really cool if I could do that. Whether I will do that or not, I don't know. But that's an idea that I had.
Listen, you've always got projects. You can't say it's never done, because I know myself. You do something and then suddenly one day we're talking about it now, and then you'll be like, yeah, that Doom thing, I think I'll try it today.
Yeah, I've got so many ideas. I've had so many ideas. And my old workmate, the guy that I was talking to you about before, if anyone wants to listen to his music, actually, he releases his stuff on Bandcamp and also SoundCloud. He's not on any others, just on those two. But his name is Robot Entity. That's what his name is, Robot Entity. And it's a bit, I don't know what you'd describe it as. It's electronic. It's a bit more experimental than me, but it's worth a listen. If you like experimental stuff that doesn't follow the natural grain of things, then I reckon that would probably be right up your street. So check him out, Robot Entity. But I used to tell him about all these different ideas. I had about a gajillion different ideas, and every 2 weeks I'd say to him, "Got this idea for an EP," and I'd start telling him, like, "Oh yeah, all right, Martin, all right, okay." And then 2 weeks later, I've got this idea for an album. I'm going to do this. I never did. But
do you ever write them down? Or I've got these files on my computer, and they're called I call them mod bits, because I do lyrics. Yeah. But also, I get fascinated by sound titles.
Okay.
So I will pick something. I think, oh, one day I'll write about that.
Yeah. Well, I had this. Yeah, I did. In fact, there was one project that I really wanted to do, and at one point I was about to start it, but the track that I ended up writing, and I can't remember which one it was, didn't sound anything like that I had in my head, and I was like, oh no, that's not part of this project. And then, you know, it just sort of got left to the wayside. But I came up with like a mock cover for it, you know, the artwork for it. It was all 4 tracks. Basically all of the track names were anagrams of each other, and which was an anagram of the title of the album as well. And I don't want to ruin it. So it's a 5-letter word.
Don't ruin it. Don't say
I don't want to ruin it.
There might be something that's coming out.
Yeah, it could be. So it's the name of the album, and then it's rearranged 4 times to make 4 different words, and that was going to be each track. And there's a story behind it as well. But it's just pulling my finger out and doing it. So you sound like you play with your mind. You like to have these games where you sort of. I do. But I think that's fascinating that you're seeing things like this and thinking about it. Obviously, it'll come later when you're ready. It always comes when you're ready. I've got so many ideas. It's just ridiculous. At the moment, I keep toying with this idea of a phone call. You know, I know it sounds mad, but I've got this idea of a phone call being in a track. And, you know, someone wants to make a phone call but doesn't quite connect, and it gets to the answer machine for whatever reason. And that's something I've been playing on. You know, I've got something in the works that could be to do with a phone call, but I get all these ideas. Whether they work or not, I don't know. But yeah,
just try, mate. Try. That's all you can do.
I like silly voices. I don't know if you've ever heard of an electronic artist called Bogdan Rosinski.
No, I haven't. No.
No. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
You've given me a few names today I've never heard, so I will check them out.
Bogdan Rosinski is. Well, I've only ever heard one album of his, and it's called Samurai Math Beats, right? And it is, I think it should be on everybody's musical bucket list to listen to that album once, you know, twice if you're lucky. But yeah, Samurai Math Beats by Bogdan Rosinski is one of my favourite electronic albums of all time. It is insane. It is weird, and it is just it's in the same sort of vein as like Aphex Twin, Square Pusher. It's all a bit weird, you know. It's all very fast, glitchy, if you want to call it that. I don't know. He's got these lots of like silly little voices in there, you know, and it just goes so well. And I've never heard anything like it at all. And one thing that I like doing is I mess around on Snapchat with my kids, and I use the silly filters and like the silly voices, and I've made like silly videos of them all. And I keep thinking I might, and I have actually done this. One of my tracks is called Nightmares in an Android's Brain.
Well, actually, you know, you said I was going to ask you that one next.
Okay. Well, one of my tracks is called Nightmares in an Android's Brain, and that is one of the only tracks that I've got. I'm trying to think of others that might have samples of my voice in. I don't think they do, but that one has samples of my voice in, and they were all done via Snapchat. And I recorded, I can't remember what the video was. It's ridiculous. It's some kind of weird zombie face. I was going into this video, and I've reversed it and I slowed it down, and I put these weird like reverby noises on there. And so all those sort of like weird, I don't know what you call it, like they're not screams, but like shouty, disturbed voice noises in there. That's all me using Snapchat filters and whatnot. And I want to do more of that. I think that's so cool. You know, it's experiment with your voice, because it's sort of like it's not hidden at all, but it's for me, it's like the hidden instrument. The missing instrument is the voice. You know, I never use it. And I think that I could probably do a lot more if I experiment with my voice a lot more, you know, with things. And Bogdan Rosinski was a massive influence for that, because he does, I don't know where he got his ideas from, but he experiments with his voice so much. so it's just so weird, but it works so well, and that has been a massive influence on me. Samurai Math Beats, give it a listen.
So anyway, about Nightmare in an Android's Brain, I put the crying rage of an android. I love the title. Are we the machine, or are we lost in the mind? I felt like it was a hymn and a pray like start to the song, or a meditation. Then the screaming of pain and booming, which is probably your voice being rolled around, is running around in the mind of an android. The soundscape and the in and out play was just brilliant. I said, the mind is a puzzle. Because you get the sounds coming in and out, don't you?
Yeah.
Is that your voice?
It is my voice, yeah. It is my voice. I was just messing around with, as I say, it's just Snapchat filters. I was just faffing with Snapchat filters. And I don't know, maybe I just, again, like I said, I get a bit creative, and then I don't know, I take things a bit too far. I talk a lot, and I like to make silly noises, and it just, I don't know, it just fits so well with that track. And I think the idea behind it is that it's in the same sort of world, you could call it that, as the other track that we talked about, I Want to Love, Thingamabob. But it's about an android who is sort of almost becoming self-aware, but he can't handle it. And it's like he's malfunctioning because all of a sudden he's having all these thoughts coming through, because, an android, a robot, they are programmed to do specific things, think this way, do that, react to this by doing that, but he's, for some reason, becoming self-aware, and it's malfunctioning him, and it's creating all these, I don't know, nightmares, I suppose. He's having all these thoughts that robots wouldn't normally think, and it's like destroying his brain, and he's malfunctioning, essentially. So it's a bit dark. I think it's quite a dark track, Yeah.
Well, I think like the way you're explaining it sounds like where I said it was the in and out play. That's the bit when you're saying he's not computing it. I think that's fantastic. I really did, because I would talk about another one, but we can't play too long tracks. We've got two long ones, haven't you? I wish I could play like 2 hours, but we can't. So
no, I know, it's all right.
Because you've got a couple of good long tracks. But this one, I remember I read it and I listened to it and I thought, this is something different. I liked it. Yeah,
it was weird because it was made in the period not so long after I made all my music for the album Concept, which, oddly enough, it was never intended to be an album. My Concept was never intended to be an album, really. It was just, I made those songs in order. I started with the first track, Space 3, and the only reason it's called Space 3 is because I mixed it once, Space, and then I decided I don't like this mix, Space 2, and then I mixed it again, Space 3, and I thought, do you know what? I really like that title. It's a bit like, it's almost like alternate realities, alternate dimensions. How many spaces are there, Anyway, so I made all the music that I made for Concept was just basically me learning, making stuff up. Every single track that I did, I had no idea what I was doing. I was pressing keys, and if it sounded good, I kept it. I was faffing with different types of drum styles. I didn't know what I was doing. And then by the end of it, I sort of had an idea what I was doing, actually. And I came up with a track called, what did I call it? It was Lost Cosmonaut, which is a story behind that, but I won't start going into that now because I'm going off on a tangent. But I've made Lost Cosmonaut, and that's is, I don't know if anyone has listened to my album concept, you know, I mean, it's not the best in the world, but all the songs are very, very different. But Lost Cosmonaut it was sort of like the starting point of where my music started making a bit more of a shift. Everything's quite happy up until that. I say happy, you know, there's a few moodier tracks, but everything is quite jolly and la-di-da up until Lost Cosmonaut. And then it starts getting a bit darker. And I thought, right, I'm putting a line in the sand here because things are changing. And I thought, I'm going to group all this together and release it as an album. And I called it Concept because I had this concept of making some music and whatnot. And I just thought, it fits really well, Concept. There we go. And then after that, that's when I made Nightmares in an Android's Brain. Things just started, I don't know, turned a bit darker. You know, I was experimenting with different, like using samples, like my voice sample and whatnot. And I don't know, it was the start of a different sound. And it's been evolving ever since then.
Nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. You're just going with how you're developing. You change moods, because like when I first started, I was very, very political. Now I'm a bit less political. Yeah. And you start going on a different like angle. It's just it's your development in your life. You might thought, well, you know, I like this, or you obviously you like androids and space and you know, and that sort of concept you want to explore more on.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
It is. It's just so weird. I mean, I'm going through a bit of a, I don't know. I mean, my latest track, Limit came out of it in December. I still haven't even released everywhere yet. I'm so lazy. City Lights, Rainy Night.
I'll tell you what, you keep beating me because that was the next one I was going to talk about.
Oh my gosh, it's like we're on the same wavelength or something. Honestly, everyone, I haven't looked at his script. I don't know what he's doing. This is just happening.
I wrote a review, and this is because I was going to talk about this one, and it's got a funky bass, chill out. It's like driving down the highway. It sounds like a bit of a chill out jazz. It's mellow. The moment when you're all alone in your car and you're grooving, the groove is just pumping, and you're in that world where you just exist with you and the music.
Yeah. Now, I mean, it's got a. I mean, for me, I think the reason I was inspired by this one, and I've been inspired by it's not my hometown. I wasn't born here, but I live in a town in North Wales, seaside town in North Wales, and I live right near the beach. And along the beach, there's lots of like purple. I mean, it's not a city at all. It's a little seaside town. It's not big, but despite the name of the track, but there's loads of purple lights everywhere. We've got this big, it's called the Sky Tower. I think it was originally like that, it's like a radio type thing, but there's all these purple lights up there, and it changes color. You know, there's blues and reds, and it looks so cool. Yeah, it does look so cool. And along the seafront, you know, even the bus stops, there's like purple lights coming out of the ground at night time. You know, there's the theatre there, the Pavilion Theatre, and there's all these like purple lights. It's just such a cool, it kind of reminds me a little bit of, you know, growing up when I was in the 90s, I used to watch a lot of anime, and everyone, well, I say everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people knows the film Akira, you know, from the 90s, and it's very sort of neon. There's you know, this look of like neon purple signs everywhere, and it's very dystopian. And I'm not saying where I live is dystopian, but it's just got this feel, you know, and it really brought me back to the whole like feel of, I don't know, like Japan, you know, and that sort of whole neo Tokyo, if you want to call it that or not. And I don't know, it's just got a real good feeling. I'm inspired by the lights of my hometown, where I live, and there was no. I didn't have an idea of how it was going to go, but I just needed something chilled out. I've been thinking about it for a while. Every time I drive up and down there, I feel so chilled out. I love driving up and down that strip of road, and that is, I'd say that's my inspiration. When I found like a little anime clip on YouTube. I didn't find it on YouTube. It's just a little GIF file, and I just looped it for about 5 minutes, however long the track goes on for, of a car driving through a city with the rain. I'm sure it's that. One.
Yeah, it is. You've got a bit of glitching. You've got a bit of light coming in from the top.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And it just fits so well. And although that is not where I live, it's just a thing that I found. When I listen to the track and I see that little clip that I made, it reminds me of driving along the promenade where I live in North Wales, and the feeling I get when I see all those lights shining up, up in the sky. It's just such a good feeling, and that's what it makes me think of. That's what it means to me, that track. It's more personal, I think, that one. I like it.
You said you liked anime. Was it more manga you was into, or because that's what I grew up on? Is once we was at that age, we was given all these people was exchanging. Listen to this one. I mean, the one I can only remember is Ghost in the Shell.
Ghost in the Shell, yeah, I know that.
There was loads of them. There was Wicked City.
Wicked City, yeah, I remember Wicked City, yeah. And Monster City, there's Monster City as well. And then one of the ones, in fact, one of my tracks, I think it was the second one I made. It's very early on in my concept album. It's called Sunset Over Owedo. And that is directly inspired by the manga series Cyber City Owedo 808. It's just like a three episode short mini series type thing, but it's based off that. It's just so, yeah, I do love my anime. And when I was making the album concept, though it wasn't meant to be an album at the time, I was very, very much inspired by anime. So a lot of the sort of style of music that I made in there was, I suppose, directly drawn, not copied as such. None of it is copied, but the sounds, the types of instruments that I was drawing in, were ones that I've heard in anime and whatnot. And it's just that has been a massive impact on me. Has had a massive impact on me, anime, in my music, definitely.
That's really cool. That is. I like that. Anyway, this is the end of the interview. So we want to tell, where do you find your music?
Where do I find it?
Yeah.
Where do I find it?
Tell people where you can find it.
Oh my gosh. Well, I am everywhere. You can get me on Bandcamp. I am where you can listen to it for free, or if you have a few extra shekels in your pocket and you want to throw them my way, you can purchase my music from there. But I'll never ever force anyone to do that. So you can listen to it for free on there. You can listen to it for free on SoundCloud, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, if you call it that. I don't know. iPlay. It's everywhere. Jinentronic, Jinentronic. Jinentronic.
And I have to apologise because a couple of times on the radio, if you ever listen, I've said gin and tonic because it's.
Oh, that's all right.
It's very. You got to get that word right. It's gin and tronic.
Yeah. I think
it's a brilliant name. I do.
Thank you very much.
It got me though because you got to say ginatronic.
Yeah. I think you can tell what I was doing at the time when I came up with that name.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Well, thank you for talking to me, and
thank you.
I hope you have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you having me on the show. It's been brilliant.
Two.